Good evening, everyone, and to another stream. It may sound a little bit different. I've got two. So I've got one that controls the sound of my mic and the sound of the audio, and then I've got another knob that says front or front and back. So I'm trying front and back this evening. It probably sounds no different at all, but using front, I can hear sometimes like myself back, which is a little bit weird. But yeah, we have had an in-between week of a bit of everything. But first of all, we're down to 2 again today. Hamza, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, mate. How about yourself?
Yeah, all good. All good. I said to myself, oh, Lord, here we go.
What are you saying, Lee? Big man.
I did think as soon as I said that something was going to come up. But I didn't know how else to describe it, so that's what you got. So obviously, first of all, I'm not going to speak too much about this because it's been spoken about enough absolutely everywhere, even in it's linked to the media as well, for sure, which is obviously good. I think both of us have different views to what I'm hearing. The first bit on Raw was one of the greatest Royal Rumbles ever. I think that's a bit extreme. I don't think it was a bad one. It was somewhere in the middle for me, like not terrible, not I'm going to remember it for years to come. How about you? What did you think to it?
Well, the thing is, I ended up rewatching it with one of my mates afterwards. And with obviously knowing when we watched it live and all of that, it was late into the night. We had a whole show to watch. It was a bit draining. And I've got to say, with rejuvenated energy, it definitely hit a bit better. There was a lot of talent in that Rumble. And it's over the last few years, there's definitely been a talent deficit when it comes to the Royal Rumble match. I mean, if we think about how many have migrated to AEW and stuff like that in the first place, and sure, there wasn't that many surprises. A bunch of the internet wrestling community are not happy with the results of either Rumble. But I've got to say, if we're talking specifically about the men's here, because I personally definitely think in terms of ring work, the women's was better. The men's was very spot to spot. It was kind of predictable at times, but with the fresh set of eyes I put on it, it wasn't the worst I've seen. I genuinely think last year's was worse, but that could be my own personal bias against Cody Rhodes. I don't know, maybe, but yeah, I don't think it's terrible. And I've got to say one thing as well that I've been thinking about, because us internet wrestling fans, we're very fickle. We're never happy no matter what. Sure, I'm not the biggest fan of Jey Uso winning the Rumble, and I'm not the biggest fan of his in-ring work. But this is something different we haven't seen from WWE before, in terms of how many times has a talent organically gotten over with the audience in a way and can resonate with them that deeply. Like everyone's yeeting. It's a movement in a sense. To actually get behind it and just be like, okay, cool, we're going to back that and we're going to see where it goes. How many years have we been like, oh, for example, Daniel Bryan should have won this Rumble or something like that, or it's like, you can't have your cake and eat it type situation. So right now, we'll have to see where it goes. I don't think it's the worst thing. Obviously, there's so much fantasy booking. There's so many matches people want to see in that main event. But it's kind of cool that they're going with what the audience are feeding energy into. So I'm trying to remain optimistic.
Yeah, no, I do think there's a lot of truth in that. I think the women's Rumble told more of a story, I think, than the men's. The men's was always going to be what it was going to be because of all the names that are in it. I know we spoke about this before as well, in that the Royal Rumble doesn't have surprises anymore as such. We had a few, which was really good, but they weren't massively out the box. I never thought they would see them in a Rumble type of ones. They're returning, or they're a legend of what they're doing. So that's good because it still brings that kind of sense of something new. But yeah, I think it was just one of those ones. I think if the matches in the middle had been better, I think that would have probably bettered us on the night.
Yeah. Like, part of it for me is it's hard to isolate the Rumble matches themselves from the overall pay-per-view premium live event. But those matches in the middle were just, in my opinion, and I think you shared the same opinion, were just awful. Like, I still see people talking on the internet about the Cody match, and they're like, "Wow, that was incredible." It's like, okay, I popped it like match of the year. No, I mean, even if you have a different opinion and you think it was a good match or whatever, that's fine. But match of the year is just a bit. It's a bit too much. Like, there were like 2 spots that I was like, okay, I see that, and the rest of it, I remember a lot of us, like, we didn't have anything to talk about. There was barely anything we could react to, and if you're not getting those visceral reactions,
I think it was towards the end. I think we was pretty much not saying anything for quite a while, just speaking in general, and then sort of 10 minutes, the last 10 minutes, we sort of going, oh, it perked our eyes a little bit because we're like, oh, something's changed here, like something's a little bit different. So it was like that last 10 minutes, but it wasn't like anything out of the ordinary. It was just some spots that maybe KO obviously got injured, so lots of them didn't finish the way that they'd hoped because he's quite badly injured from what I heard.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things. I think a lot of people were shocked with the result just because they didn't know the winner of the Rumble. Really pleased we didn't get the result that everybody was thinking about, because obviously it made sense. If Kevin Owens won, he would then face Sami Zayn, like if he won the Rumble. Like, so that made sense. But I'm pleased they didn't go for that, because often that's what they'll do. They'll say, right, what would the vast majority want us to do? Oh yeah, we'll do that then. So to actually go against the grain a little bit and go, oh, don't think anybody's going to really expect Jey Uso to win, but let's go with it. Because normally, lots of the time, they win and then it becomes nothing. So yeah, I suppose in that there is a lot of truth. But obviously, this is an in-joke from Lee. If you're not familiar with football at all, you will not get that reference.
I get the reference.
It was quite, how can I describe it? So without being biased and nasty. So when a team or something expects to do massive things, always say they do massive things, and it never happens that way, that would be the description of that in the nicest possible way.
Bloodline nepotism.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the WWE 2K25 roster of who's been announced thus far and you scroll through it, you're like, oh yeah, The Rock is on the board of directors. His entire family's in it before actual Braun Breaker hasn't even been announced, but we've got literally the entire Samoan dynasty right now. So, yeah. Interesting.
It's good you spoke there, because I did have a chance then to Google what that word meant. I'd heard of the word, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense now. Your comment makes sense now. So yeah, I think that was all really I wanted to say about that. And then we had obviously Raw.
I've got one more thing to add real quick though about the Rumble. I want to know your thoughts specifically, because I think this is probably the one thing that I'm fully on board with what most of the internet wrestling community are saying, which is crazy to agree with the internet wrestling community on anything these days. Why would Jey Uso challenge Gunther for that? Like, do you not think the story would be better if he went after Cody? Even if it's like a mutual thing, like there's a story either way, and I'm sure like he's been beefing with, but we've already seen this matchup, and that's a massive point of detraction. It's like a Royal Rumble win. Like that's going to get him like what, night 1 on WrestleMania main event probably, right? That's not the actual main event of WrestleMania. He's not fighting for the main belt. He's not going to close the show with confetti and all of that. It's that doesn't make sense to me personally, and I think that is a part of the reason why people are more sour on it. I think they could have done something different. I think it was Jey Uso versus Cody Rhodes. Everyone would be like, wow, this is great. Yee, you know?
Yeah. But then I suppose it's quite double-edged because obviously we've seen Gunther and him before. So that win would be like a victory against somebody that he's fought loads of times and lost against. But yes, we've seen that. But then on the other hand, would the internet wrestling community then go mad because one of their biggest stars has lost the title to Jey Uso? And then what then happens to Jey Uso? Because realistically, as bad as it may sound, when this whole everyone and the commentators doing his yeet thing is over, then they'll be going, oh, well, he's not good enough to be a champion. So, which...
Then you have Roman Reigns come out and squash him and take his belt back, and we've got a whole new thing.
Which I don't... To be honest, I don't agree with in a lot of times because if you're part of one of the greatest tag teams of the modern era, you're not a bad wrestler because you can't get away with being that good as a two if you're not good. So I don't fully...
Sure, he's got talent.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's one of those I guess that's why we do this. We can win sometimes, but we're always eventually going to lose somewhere down the line. So
for sure.
It's interesting. But obviously that's going to be the next February, March, April, midway through April, 2.5 months worth of every single day seeing somebody predict the whole card from now until then, which I hate because, again, it ruins the element of surprise of the whole thing. If you've seen the same card and it ends up that way, the promos and stuff in ring, they become less important if you know already what's happening. It's one of those things. So a wrestling reference as well. Lee's always quite good at these. That I'm under the learning tree. Well, there's a story for that one because obviously me and Lee went to All In.
Oh yeah,
and I was expecting. So the year before I went, but I was behind the ramp. So when they sang Judas, it was really good because everyone was singing back, but I couldn't physically see it because I was behind the ramp. So in my fountain of knowledge, I thought, oh yeah, fantastic. I'm going to be able to see it this time. So it gets around to the match and it doesn't happen. And I said to Lee, well, why is it not happening? And he said, because he's not that person anymore. So I was like, I don't care how the match is now, it's ruined. I was singing it on the way up. People were singing it with me down the Wembley way. It was great. And then it didn't happen. So, hey, Matthew, I don't think I've seen your name before. It's good to have you. As a question, do you think AEW can do a King and a Queen of the Ring called AEW King and Queen of the Elite Tournament? I'm going to pass that over to you first.
If I see another fucking tournament in AEW, I'm going to Kurt Cobain myself. It's tournament into tournament. Like, you're not running a G1 climax into a G2 climax. Like, can we get some actual storylines going on that show? Maybe the internet wrestling community will actually be more receptive to it. I think they could do it, but the whole point is there's just way too much tournaments for irrelevant belts that they keep creating and all kinds of title opportunities that are just all throwaway. There's no storylines to back them. I would love to see it. The talent pool is so rich. Obviously, they've got so many people, and I can understand that booking these tournaments is a good way to get more showcase on them and all of that. But we've just had too many tournaments lately. Way too many tournaments. Yeah, you know me, Lee. You know I get passionate about this. I think it would be great, but yeah,
I've got a different answer. If they did a little bit like they did at Wrestle Kingdom, where they took one from each promotion and put them into a tournament where eventually one of them would be a winner of both the men's and the women's. So, for example, they did, I think they did a men's and a women's. You'll have to, or it's maybe just a women's. And they had one from AEW, one from Stardom, one from it's definitely not New Japan. CMLL, do they have women's players? So that was the third one.
Yeah.
And then there was one more. So it's like if they were going to do that, which obviously they could, being closely linked to all those, then yes, I would say great, because it gets different eyes on different people and gives them opportunities. But if they were going to do it on the men's and just the women's of AEW, then they've done that before in lots of different ways, as you alluded to. And then if AEW do King of the Ring for men, Brody King, and women's
I'm gonna have to refresh myself on the roster right now, you know.
I think the women's roster does get a lot of time on AEW though, so maybe a different one, like I said, because you've got your big players that kind of stay there the whole time. So can't give you a really amazing answer on that one.
I like your choice of Brody King though. Brody King as the King could be some interesting TV. Also, his work rate is insane.
I didn't really know much about him because obviously he's always been trios, and then there was so I was on the way to a Sin show, I think, and I watched the AEW because they'd been putting Ospreay in different matches every week, and he had a match with him, and they were like, "Oh, it's the first time we've really got to see him out of the trios," and it was insane. It was one of the best matches I've seen this year so far on a weekly show. So it kind of shows you that in a free, people can kind of fall into the background, but on your own, you've just got you and your ability and your work rate to look at. So,
I'd probably, if this did happen, my picks would probably be Switchblade Jay White, because they need to clutch him out somehow. They are not doing a good job with his booking currently. I couldn't be happy. He's King Switch, baby. It would be good to have him actually be able to back that. And for the women, I would give it to Camille, because what have they been? She's not being used. She was like literally the workhorse of the NWA for the time that she was doing something. Like, can we actually, the talent that could put in the work, can we give them some more of a showcase? That's what I would. The only way I would have that tournament going is to elevate and platform some of the talent that could move up the card, become part of that main event scene, and become staples to that company.
Yeah, I think they would also run into the internet wrestling community at the moment because obviously the WWE have just done the 2 women's belts, haven't they? So middle women's belts. So they'll go, oh, well, you're just doing the same thing. So they would have to call it something different to Queen and King of the Ring anyway. My choices for King and Queen are Takeshita and Mariah. Understandable.
I'm big on Takeshita in general. He's really having a great run right now.
Understandable, but at the same time, he's holding that title at the minute and looks pretty unstoppable with that. So Mariah May, again, like, she's great. I think it was the weirdest reception ever when we went to All In, and I was one of the only ones, the people that was cheering her. And I was like, well, she's our own. Like, we clearly wanted to win. Like, as much as she plays this amazing heel, I was like, we've got to be like, we don't get much of a say normally, so we've got to like stand patriotic to our wrestlers. Crazy idea. The final match of Mariah versus Tony is an I quit match, but not at Revolution 2025. In a Dynamite where it all started in Scotty's Bank. Saddle Dome, where it started and where it ends.
Could be a nice bookend. Yeah, no, I can see that.
It's class having all these comments. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's great. Keep them coming, boys.
They should have a tournament with all the mid-card champions. Yeah, I think that's what made me think about the mid-card belt on WWE and the women becoming ROH, TNT, Intercontinental Television Champion. Yeah. I'm all right, thank you, because I'm really, really bored of Mercedes Moné holding Rev Pro, AEW, and what's the other one? And I really feel sorry for her.
Strong, right?
Yeah, and she's not even defending it, so I feel really bad for that promotion.
It's what I was saying about the tournaments in general. They've just got way too many mid-card belts in that promotion. So yeah, I think, Stussy, that's a fantastic idea, is to like remedy that in a sort of way.
I like the idea of an Eye Quack match. I think we should make at the end of the year the rules for an Eye Quack match.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like just a pond of ducks, and if loser gets thrown into the pond, it will be like that horrible ass. I don't know what people think about it, that Mimosa Mayhem match or whatever that Orange Cassidy and Jericho did. Speaking of King Jericho, if Jericho became king during that tournament, no, thank you. I'm good. Jericho really needs to like hit the lab, and if he's gonna do something, cook up something that's not so ego driven right now, because I think he's gotten way too complacent with his role.
See him in wrestle in like 5 or 6 weeks of Dynamite. He's just had like a minute segment with the three of them where he's like just a filler while they get the right commercial that they're going to put on next before the picture-in-picture starts. So yeah, really good to have you all in the chat.
Keep the comments flowing. This is great.
Yeah, it's clear that we doing the Rumble has had a really good effect for the people tuning into the Sundays. That's why I really booked a day off work in order to be able to watch it, because I knew this is the time that we've got to get ourselves out there in this season where everyone's looking for content.
Yeah, the Rumble always brings in the whole community. Yeah.
For anyone that's watching now, if you're watching live, you'll get a bit of an exclusive. Hoping that we can have a watch along. I don't know why I was thinking there. Watch along for Stand and Deliver, because this year that starts at 8 p.m. And then Mania shortly follows it. So Stand and Deliver is my good one because it's always in the afternoon. But in the evening is absolutely fine as well, to a point where I can still not lose a week's full of sleep. As always, I need to get better at that. What big sign-in is AEW doing this year in 2025?
Hopefully someone to book the card.
So leave that with us, and I'll come back to that at the end, because I'll have had some time to think then. So I've tried to not this week do absolutely everything and pick out the key points, which I then don't need to rely on my notes for. So I'm not looking at another screen or a bit of paper. So obviously the bit that I'm going to fly past is the Jay and Gunther bit, because we've spoke about that already. Penta had a match that was okay against Ludwig Kaiser, but probably the weakest one that he's had so far. That's not saying that it was bad. He still looked good, but it just wasn't to the level of So he had the Chad Gable one first, then the Pete Dunne one, and I think this is the third one.
I'm liking the Penta run. I mean, I've been big on Penta since I first saw him in Lucha Underground. I've been following his career for years. These matches are cool. They're a nice little showcase of what he could do and exposing him to the wider wrestling audience. We need to get him in the storyline quick, because this whole just work rate, random opponents. Like we need something to flow here that can really develop his character work and engage. Like he's already engaged with such a core audience, but if you don't know Penta from prior association, it's going to be hard to get into him as a character because he's currently just week to week just having matches. So I hope they do something there.
Yeah, I've got a YouTube video to watch actually that randomly came up on the side of my screen that said the dark side of Penta with all his masks and stuff.
Pentagon Dark was a whole like kind of alter ego that he did during like his Lucha Underground stuff. You'd love that. Some of the best matches I've ever seen.
I think it was just like a compilation and a bit behind the story and stuff. So
he had some fantastic intergender matches as well against Io Shirai, Kairi Sane. They're running this whole little thing back, and honestly, those matches like really, really resonated. So
yeah, I suppose that it's going against the grain, isn't it? Because their styles of wrestling match up, but then you have this side community now that would go, oh my god, you can't have a man and woman wrestle. But
I think we're in a different like era now when it comes to like. I mean, if you look at the game, they're allowing intergender matches as well right now, and we've heard like Rhea Ripley talk about stuff like that. I think we're heading into a different perspective when it comes to that, which is exciting times.
Yeah, definitely. I think long gone are hopefully of a time where we go, oh, well, we can't have that. But like we say, if it was a boxing match, then I would say, yeah, I would completely agree with you. But with something that's a lot of the time choreographed and they'll have spoke to each other before the match start, even if that's briefly to just plan out an idea of what they want to do, it's the safest possible way you can do it, I think. There's no kind of, oh, a man's stronger. Like, it doesn't matter because they both play their part in the whole match. So, yeah. So
kind of spectacle, like every now and then, you know, like not a continuous thing, but you could definitely build some more interesting feuds and stuff around that stuff.
Yeah. I'm also not a fan with them slowly leading up to him fighting Rey Mysterio, though. Yeah, that is actually really true.
It's facts, yeah. It's facts.
Nia Jax did the same thing, didn't she? She came into the men's rumble.
She went into the men's rumble. Ate an RKO.
That was just really funny. Like, so it is kind of a double standard thing sometimes, maybe.
Yeah.
You've
got to agree with Stussy on that one.
Maybe if we keep selling all this Penta merch, they'll win the rumble next year. Like Jay, yeah, maybe, but I also don't want that. That's going back to like, let's suit the kids, isn't it? So I also don't want that at the same time. 6 second man. I don't know if that was. I don't know. I'm not sure. But yeah, quickly going over the other things. I think we've talked a little bit about Charlotte. She had that was a really good promo career, actually. I did enjoy that. It's probably one of my more enjoyable things of Raw, just because they're both such great speakers. And we've had a little bit of a discussion in the group chat today, kind of flitting around ideas of what we would want to see happen and stuff. And that was good because we came up with a lot of different things.
Yeah, I think I'm probably the biggest Charlotte hater in the group chat. Unfortunately, I can't resonate with anything, even her promos. She just doesn't really speak to me personally. But I can see
why. Shocking on NXT as well. I'll get to that. She was shocking coming out on NXT. Ludwig Kaiser, the 6 second man, makes sense now. So then Liv beat Io Sky by disqualification because Rhea Ripley got involved to book her place in the Elimination Chamber, which I'll touch on again later because I saw an incredible prediction. CM Punk beating Sami Zayn to mark his place. Seth had a little bit of a promo where he gloated that neither Roman Reigns or CM Punk won. He's pleased that he injured Roman. There's obviously a massive story arc there, which I really hope they do.
I hope they do a triple threat Mania, honestly. Like,
yeah. So pulled out Sami Zayn and then a brief brawl with Punk. That was it. pretty much. But yeah, I think that's again, Raw's staying at a level. Raw's staying at a level that the whole thing for me is watchable. In parts, I'm kind of on my phone and kind of doing other bits, but for the most part, it's staying watchable. As we get down, because I hate to be really negative, but as I get down to later on in the show, we'll see that the other one it is getting very unwatchable to the point I don't even start it nowadays. So NXT, I've had my lot to say on it as someone that's watched it continuously for quite a number of years now. That they're not doing enough, I don't think, to bring the new people on board. But I think things are slightly changing, as you'll find out. So there was a cool return in this one. Lexis King was out admiring his Heritage Cup, and then we got the do.
That should have been in the Rumble. What were they thinking? That should have. I mean, maybe he's not cleared. Maybe he's not ring ready yet or something. But yeah, that was a moment. It was nice to see the audience all remember that whole era and that whole arc. So yeah, that's cool.
That was really cool.
Fandango is back and he's in NXT.
So. Yeah, so he looked completely different. That was the first thing I noticed. Like, couldn't have looked any further. It looked like his song before. Like, they did that whole thing really well. But he'd clearly beefed up a lot and kind of looked a little bit mean. So he basically interrupts and says, I am now called JDC on TNA, and I'm basically coming to take the Heritage Cup on behalf of the system from TNA. As it always happens now on NXT, they always go and speak to Ava, whether they do or they don't. It's all decided very quickly. And a match is announced next week for that. I have been in the camp before of the things should stay in what promotion it's in. But as this is working out, I really want that to be mixed up completely and say, do you know what? Look, we can take it from your brand and you've got to come back and get it. I've
got the opposite philosophy to you, and I like it when it feels more like a sport when people can go around and compete for these championships and these cups and everything. And it's based on their individual talent as a pro wrestler instead of their book to and what their affiliation is. So I'm really enjoying this crossover stuff right now.
Yeah, I guess as always, as the internet wrestling community probably was, they were kind of worried, oh my God, TNA are just going to be bought out by WWE because they're not doing so well. And like that was my first thought. But then this week is the first week that I thought, actually, do you know what? It's really helping both of them. Because NXT was at a point where the women's division is massive, but their men's division, they're going to start slowly losing them all to the main roster because it's weird. They have this amazing run in NXT, but obviously if it's so amazing that people are talking about it, that's going to have a shelf life because then they go, wow, right, what can we do now to get them over and just ruin their career completely, which is what happens normally. But so there's that for next week. Charlotte Flair also turned up with somebody that I would expect out of the developmental program or the Evolve that's coming up to come out. Basically said, pleased to be here, but I'm better than everyone here. And it is my home, but you all crap. I am the best. I'm going to beat Julia and anybody else that comes in my way. So she's really not helping the character that people are hating because even the NXT crowd were eventually booing her when she was starting because it's just not it. I think in the ring at the time was Julia, Bailey, and somebody else. So it's three. They were all going to face up because that'll be the match for Vengeance Day. And then she kind of came out and did the whole. They've done it before though, haven't they? They did it last year when the men's and the women's. One of the winners came onto NXT and went, "Oh yeah, might fight for your titles. I won't, but I might."
I think it's just a bit of a spit in the face in a sense, because the NXT crowd are the most forgiving and probably one of the most passionate mainstream like crowds and fan bases in pro wrestling right now, and to have that promo go down the way it did, I think they're just adding. I don't know if it's what they're trying to do as part of the character building and make Charlotte into this detestable heel. But for me and a lot of people that I've spoken to, it's just got major go away heat, and see how it goes. But yeah, it's becoming very formulaic, as you said, like literally, it might challenge you about, but they never do. It's like, why bother? You could do something else there instead.
Yeah, bring some of that stack division into the picture maybe, and make it a bloody, I don't know, battle royal that stand and deliver. Like, just do something wacky like that. I prefer MJF's. Oh no, don't get me started on that. We had a rant over that.
I got to say, I agree with you, Stussy, and it says a lot because terrible situation overall. Normalize triple threat matches. It doesn't have to be anything like, and that's pure like angst, isn't it? Like they were costing each other a shot at WrestleMania main event. I think that is enough of a reason to do a triple threat match. There is hostility there. You want to believe why these people dislike each other and want to prove themselves to be a better performer.
I think it's better than a 1v1 though in some aspects, because you've got that added bit of you don't even get pinned to like lose your championship, and the camera's going everywhere because one's flying about, and like I think it's, I guess because maybe it's not that normal on like conventional wrestling like WWE and NXT and stuff, whereas I think it's more in like New Japan with the tag team and the triple threat. Not really.
Not really. Like, here's the thing I was going to say. I cannot for the life of me remember the last time I saw a triple threat match, or the last time I was like, oh yeah, like that's, these multi-man matches barely happen anymore across any promotion that I've been following. So
to be honest, only probably in 2K, and that's it. Like that's what I do. I haven't played the game.
So
I just randomly go on like and play one match that will just be a 10-man triple threat between half of the custom like superstars that I've got. Like Mario will come in randomly, and
you got Mario as well. Oh wow, that's crazy. Our 2Ks are intertwined, and Mario
big. Yeah, it's great because I love the characters that you get. That you've got like normally this like straight face with a normal sized body, and then Mario just comes on and he takes up like a quarter of your screen, and then comes out, and it's just fantastic. Hearing what they're doing this year with taking custom creations from PC and console off is great.
Yeah. While we're still on the topic of 2K, real quick, I just have to announce, unfortunately, yesterday at Survivor Series on my file, Pit Plup failed his first defense of IWGP Championship, and he lost it to Rick Boogs, who is now being proclaimed the illegitimate son of Paul Heyman. So yeah, stay tuned.
Yeah, it's one of those ones because obviously they still haven't quite worked it out on console for sure, where it's downloading a tiny file to download these wrestlers, but it still takes ages, and you sat there going, I can turn my PlayStation off and go onto my Xbox quicker than I can download this 1.2 whatever file of just this wrestler and him walking out with some random music that's not even affiliated to anyone. So I don't know what they do wrong, but maybe if they take the PC out, who knows? Any chance we'll see? Maybe an appearance.
That is interesting. That's very interesting.
Has he ever wrestled in TNA? I don't think he has.
No, but I think that's part of what makes it interesting. Is like that could, as part of the final run of John Cena. who in the history of the sport expects to see John Cena in any other promotion? That's really. I'm sure he's given a bunch of interviews where he said he's not against the idea, and the internet love Joe Hendry, so it could be a way to rub, right? Like this could be an elevation.
Title off him. I'd really like.
Oh, yeah, that's what you're gonna want, isn't it? Because you're fed up of the
like a one night stand, like a one night stand situation.
That's the exact kind of vibe I'm getting there. Yeah,
I've had enough of this. I'm going to take over now because I am John Cena. He can take over.
Maybe we'll get heel John Cena and he'll invade TNA. Maybe we'll get that run. That who knows? That's very interesting, Stassi. You. My 2K booking is going to go quite crazy now, thanks to you.
There was one this week to qualify for the Elimination Chamber. There was a couple on two on SmackDown as well. But I won't be talking about them for very long, all that show. So there was one more thing. There's a North American Championship Steel Cage match next week on NXT, which is really good. Obviously, Tony D'Angelo with the title that's elevating him massively. Versus Ridge Holland, which, I don't know, I'm getting a little bit frustrated to him. He's putting himself in every single match, in every single cup title competition that he can. So I just don't think you help that person when that happens, really.
Yeah, I'm a little bit Ridge down no McCoy's, honestly. Like, yeah, he's too much presence and not really enough substance behind it. But I'm loving what D'Angelo would be doing.
There was Force to see this week. So then we go on to a banner that I had to add today, because apart from me watching the pay-per-views when they come up, this has never been a banner that I have needed. But it's really nice that I've got one now. So
we expanded.
Yeah, over 2 weeks they've had, so not this week, but the week before, they had their first live taping of a Impact in 8 years. Obviously, the idea is to move them over to Orlando, where the Performance Center is, where NXT do their shows, so they can easier make that partnership a realist thing as they possibly can, which is slowly happening, and they're thriving from this. They're gonna get so many more people watching them because we're in an era of wrestling where every show is massively long and it has so much in it. But when I've downloaded TNA the last couple of weeks, it has been an hour and 20 minutes both times. And in that, they fit in so much. And we were speaking just a little bit before that each segment is really fun to watch. So there's no kind of, right, we need to fill 2 minutes now, so we'll just send somebody out and it'll say some bunch of stuff and then we'll do it, go to something else. Both times I've pretty much watched, can't say 100% because that would be lying, like 85% as a guess, which is a lot more than I normally watch of AEW and Raw put together. So that was really good to see. So this week, I was really excited about a Knockouts Championship Battle Royal they had. Although I was really excited to find out that it would be 30 wrestlers. But as the show started, it would only be 10. But still, it's 10 people that potentially you're not going to get to see. Unfortunately, it wasn't the case, but the match was still really good. So I'll start with that one. Off the top of my head, I can't remember at all who was in it. I know both of the tag champs, Danny Luna and I can't think of a name, was in it. There's another tag team. There was a couple of singles, and then there was a return to TNA of Jazz. Apparently, she runs. I've put question mark. So I was meant to look into it a little bit more, but I didn't. She runs her own promotion. She's been in the game for a long, long time.
Very long, yeah. Jeez.
Got a massive pop when she came out. So if you don't look into things like I was supposed to do, that gives you a good indication of how they are and how they're perceived by everyone. So that was cool because I think TNA have a really good job of going absolutely mad when something amazing happens, which is just great. Just because they have to, I guess, in the market that they're in the juggernaut that is AEW and WWE, they've got to stand out in some way, which is one of their little ways, which is good. Although they need to learn to get better at their booking a little bit because they tend to book the same matches with the same people quite a few times until the championship changes when they want to. So maybe like using more of the roster, but obviously they've got access to NXT now, which is really going to help them. So Savannah Evans won this one. So she'll be facing Slamovich next week for the championship. Quite excited about this one.
That's very exciting. I'm sure that's going to be an absolute belter of a match.
Because Slamovich is quite mean and tough. Rosemary was in it. She's just had that like really cool hardcore type match with her last pay-per-view. But I was hoping she didn't win it again. Savannah Evans is someone that I've not really seen much of before, but it kind of fits the person and the mold of somebody that could beat Slamovich. I don't think she will, but it fits the mold of I'm going to run through you basically to take your title. So that'll be good, I think. Jazz with the one and done return, having retired a couple of years ago. Yeah, I think she had, and then she said something about running a promotion now or something like that. There was the Joe Hendry kind of Timu rock concert sort of vibe.
Yeah. Timu rock concert is a great descriptor.
I don't know. I get where he's. I think I messaged you at the same time, and I said I get where he's come from the smaller promotions and stuff, and that takes a lot of work. So I can't knock that. It's just this whole when it goes over to being in the charts and stuff, because you hear it everywhere. It becomes like a jokey thing eventually with the rest of the population that goes, oh. Well, there is those weird people that still watch wrestling then. So, but yeah, he's apparently going to fight Jake something next.
I mean, that's the only problem that I've got with Hendry right now. Like, I've got huge amounts of respect for how he has organically grown his fan base and everything he's been doing. But as soon as it gets into that point where he becomes a walking gimmick, and it's no longer about his ability inside the ropes and what he can actually do and the heights he can hit. It just, you hit a sort of ceiling, don't you? And it seems like he is kind of hitting a ceiling right now, at least for some of the fans, like ourselves, because how long are you going to keep doing the same stuff, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
I also don't think they've booked him in a fantastic way either. They've kind of played on that he's a bit of a joke because he's fought so many times for that title before winning it. So it's like, oh, we'll do a WWE. Let's finish your story. But it just doesn't do anything for that person that's competing for it because I think like a couple of people have said on AEW the last couple of weeks on promos, it's always the shit and the hard times that a person's gone through that people remember, and not that one moment where they capture the title, but that goes into the abyss of everybody else capturing the title. So, yeah, I don't know. It's one of those ones. Again, really predictable. I think it would have been fun if nobody expected him to come out in the Rumble, and maybe Nick Nemeth would come out instead. But
yeah. Just with the WWE crowd, I think that would have been big.
Yeah, he's also got the thing at TNA in a minute where he's fighting with his brother as a tag team, which I don't know. I'm not a great fan of. I'm also not a great fan of Nathan Fraser and Axiom going over to NXT each week and really defending the title every week because they're not going to be taken off them. So again, I think they could. Sounds like I'm really like shitting on it, but actually, it's really good. I just think they need to, while it's new, take advantage of it and get people invested in it.
I think we're being as constructive as possible when it comes to it, because it is definitely going upward as a product. The presentation and everything is like, I can't believe in the modern day, it's 2025 and we're sat here, we're talking about TNA. Like, that speaks volumes in of itself. So they've clearly got people invested. We just got to hope that they make the right choices and they keep it upward.
Yeah, I don't think they need to keep people like me invested because NXT have gone over to TNA. I will then just watch TNA anyway, just to see what might happen between the two.
Mm-hmm.
It's that because it did go again into out into the mainstream media that happened. So it's, again, we live in an era where on Netflix there's a million things for everything that you potentially might want to see. So you've got to take advantage of when things are new and fresh. But yeah, the only other thing was obviously Fraxium retaining, and then that Josh Alexander, his story at the minute is he's going to have one last match against Eric Young, and that will be next week. Whether I think it's his one last match is to be seen, because I was watching a boxing pay-per-view last night that was apparently Derek Chisora's last dance, but then he won and then held up 3 big names on the pictures, was held up by Skepta, Tiny Temple and Lethal Bizzle, and he got the crowd to pick who he wanted to face next, although that was billed as his last dance. So fair play
in combat sports, isn't it? Like, you hear it all the time. Yeah, just the last bout, and then boom, here's Ric Flair again popping up for the millionth time. Like,
it was great. He fully deserved it. It was wonderful for somebody that's had such an amazing story to win a match that he was never expected to win in his last one. But obviously, at number 49, they were going, "Wow, what happens if you do 50?" And then it got to the end, he'd won, and Frank Warren's now talking about his 50th fight, and he can pick whoever he wants now he's won. So yeah, we'll see on that one. But yeah, that's my little off-topic segment for this week. TNA banner can go up for a sec, but it's coming down, I'm afraid, now. So, AEW must be thinking to themselves, what have we got to do at this point? Because I don't think I've heard anyone speak about AEW since WWE started on Netflix, apart from me watching it and writing notes. But yeah, it's still doing quite well in parts. In other parts, it's not doing so well. But majority, it's still doing okay. So we had another brawl to start off the show with the Death Riders.
Of course we did.
Jay White, FTR, and Cope. I still feel really, really bad.
It's wrong, isn't it? It's wrong, yeah.
But I've got to, apparently, because then people don't get messed up, I suppose.
Rated R superstar.
Yeah. So Jay White and Cope now have
I don't understand this at all.
No rules Brisbane Brawl match, sorry, at Grand Slam. I get it. Death Riders are trying to just take over everyone, so anybody that can kind of battle with them are being put up against them. But at the same time, it's really not the Bloodline story, so I don't really know what. I think they're trying to imitate that in their own way. But they're not.
They just picked names out of a hat, didn't they? Like, yeah. There's no reason for these dons to be allied with each other. Like, not has anyone been seeing what Jay White was doing prior to this storyline? Like, it's completely out of left field, at least for me. And anyone who knows me knows that Jay White is my guy primarily. The stuff with Cope is heartbreaking. I remember putting AEW on like a few weeks ago when he came back from the injury, and I was sat there watching it with my mum. And my mum is the biggest diehard Adam Copeland fan since back when she was watching in the Attitude Era. And her heart was just sank because she was like, what are they doing? It's a directionless story. Like, the Death Riders stuff has turned so many people away from the product. I don't know what they're going to do. How can you can't just do a brawl every week? And as you said, it just seems like a very poor imitation, like a Temu version or a Wish version of the Bloodline story. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say on that.
But why I still can't wrap my head around why they thought they needed to change his name, even though they've changed his name already, because obviously they can't use Edge, so we'll use his real name, as they do mostly. He did more than he should for the product by breaking bones, which at his age could have completely finished his career off.
It's hard to watch a lot of the time, honestly. Like, we know how prone he is, and like he can have a career-ending injury at any point. They just need to be a little bit more responsible with their talent. This is kind of ridiculous. And like, you're doing all of these brawl segments and all of that with someone who is very volatile and it could go really badly. And honestly, a part of that just makes me wince and not even want to watch it. That's my opinion on that.
Yeah, I'll still go back to what we all said last year when things were really bad. And we said, as much as we hate to say it, we're very close to something fatally and seriously happening when they started off that whole burning people and stuff like that. Thankfully, they reined it down after that when they realised that really wasn't helping them. But I guess that is their thing, isn't it? Their thing is, right, what can we do to make the internet talk about us? Right, we'll have a match where somebody's pissing blood, and great if that's someone that is in that part of their career that they're happy to sacrifice themselves for. But the other end of that is me watching WWE, a product where they've kept some of the old like artifacts and stuff in like a vault, and they took Mick Foley to the cage that gave him a brain injury. Yeah. It was like, and they do this massive thing, don't they? Oh my God, it's the first time they've seen it. And I sit there and I go, what the fuck?
Yeah, like, yeah. It's like a dystopian, isn't it?
Do that to someone like that, yes, would probably made one of the most influential moments of the last 20, 30 years of wrestling. But he's paying the price for that for the rest of his life. Like, why would you then want to, just to get your 10 minutes of TV where people will go, oh my God, he's seen it again?
Yeah.
Like, why would you want to do that to a person like that's clearly just stood there and was like,
man. Yeah. I mean, like, with this whole Death Riders stuff in particular, I gotta say, like, when I tune into AEW, I've been getting this real aura, and it's like, I can understand why WWE are exponentially growing, and even though sometimes the product isn't where the internet wrestling community wants it to be, I'm watching AEW. I'm like, if I was a kid, I wouldn't be allowed to watch this shit. Like, it's one of those where they toe the line so hard. Like, I've got two little brothers in the household who I'd love to get into wrestling. They're not into wrestling because the current climate is just trying to cater towards the internet fan base, and it's not as accessible as it should be. WWE, you can tune on and you're going to have kids wearing Jey Uso t-shirts and yeeting along and being part of the experience. The whole point of this community is that we need to be able to have the young blood on it as well. And if you just make it all in all about this grand spectacle and one-upping that ECW syndrome, like, it's great, like, in moderation. But if it's every single weekend, you're going to be turning entire families away from the product. People aren't going to want to take their families out to these events and have those moments because they'll be like, oh, maybe Moxie's going to come out. He's going to try and kill someone on live TV. And I'm going to have to explain to my child why this is happening, or these concepts that you don't want to do in the escapism medium of entertainment.
Why they're putting a bag over his head to try and suffocate him And then when they come home the next day, and when they're doing that to the younger brother because they saw it at the show they were at last night,
exactly.
And the ambulance has been called. Like, as much as I hate to sound like the fun police, at the same time,
course.
I'm
a maniac. I love all of the crazy stuff. I watch death matches in my spare time. But this stuff has to happen in moderation when you've got such a wide reach. You have to have a bit of responsibility, and it just seems a little bit irresponsible right now.
All these death matches are in people's back gardens that somebody set up one camera with, and so people know what they're getting.
It's underground culture, exactly.
If I watch it, if I find it on one of my completely legal sites, it will be some of the worst camera work that I've ever seen in my life. But again, it's somebody's back garden with one static camera that the poor guy has to like flip between and watch out for shards of glass and everything like that. So like you say, there's a market for that. It's still even mentioned on TNA, I think. Or no, Cora Jade mentioned it. Cora Jade mentioned it on NXT because she was like, well, who do you think I am? I've been wrestling in death matches all around the world. Like, and you think I can't beat Julia in a match? Like, that was one of the things that she said. I thought that was really cool. Yeah. But yeah, there's that. And obviously it's kind of, to me, it was kind of like, oh yeah, this is how we're going to repay you. We're going to change your name to something that people will be like, what's going on? And probably end up taking the mick, which is what will probably happen. Next, I had the next week for Grand Slam. There would be a title match between Okada and Buddy Matthews.
Seen it before.
But the interesting thing about this is they said Grand Slam was just going to be a weekly show, but now on all the advertisements that I've seen, it says it's going to be directly after NBA All-Star Saturday. So to me, that's them saying it's a pay-per-view. They wouldn't need to put it's directly after that if it was a weekly show. They have tried to stack the card as best as they can, which I think they've done really well at. But just say it's a pay-per-view. Like, it doesn't really matter. Probably get people more excited if you say it's a pay-per-view than you will a weekly show, because I'm like, oh, weekly shows, not really title changes. They're okay matches, but they're nothing short of amazing. Ospreay had a match against Mark Davis, which was quite cool because he's like, it's that same thing with Carl Fletcher. Oh my God, you opened your house to you and now you're here. So Will wins that one as he wins every week, which again, I'm not a fan of, because he should be winning every week. But yeah, you need to give the other person a chance to, like they did with Brody King, like they did with Carl Fletcher and other stuff that they've done. They've all got moments that have got people talking about them. Mark Davis probably just got, can't believe Ospreay's wrestling him. He's so much bigger, so much more powerful. But somehow they make this really long match that Ospreay eventually grinds him down. I don't really know how, because when you look at both of them together, they couldn't be, in terms of like the size and the power, they couldn't be any different.
Completely different classes of wrestling, different pockets entirely. I'm big on both of them. I think they're both for their specific niches. They are some of the best at what they do. Mark Davis, absolute unit. I remember watching him at a Rev Pro show and just absolutely jumping out my seat, losing my mind at what him and Fletcher were doing back in the day. Interesting match. It can continue.
Yeah, it's just, I think it was again for more the storyline thing, because they're eventually, I think probably that was one of the last ones. He'll have now fought everybody in the Don Callis family. So before him and Kenny fight two of them, that was probably the last thing that they could do. So that makes sense, because Grand Slam is next weekend. Yes, next weekend. Oh yeah, MJF came out, and I think this is why I'm going to put Stussy's comment back up, because he came out again, and clearly things haven't changed a great deal. Where is Stussy's comment before I go on a little bit of a rant? Maybe turn down your volume. This one. So I prefer MJF, I slept with your wife promos over Charlotte's condescending promos. You say that, but it got worse. So MJF came out. I knew I wasn't going to make many notes, but the first thing when he put the mic to his mouth, he said, "Oh well, Jeff Jarrett, all elderly wrestling, geriatric, whatever. I've just had enough of this. Full stop." Then it couldn't get any worse when Dustin Rhodes came out then and said, "Keep the Hart name out of your mouth. You don't know who you are. You've got no right to say that." He goes a bit nuts. I did like that part because it was kind of him trying to humble him a little bit. Promo was saved by him, but it's still just in really poor taste, in really poor... I don't know. I'm running out of words for it, to be honest, because it's gone over like 2 or 3 weeks now. But yeah,
it's just so it's just I'm getting tired of the MJF Heat Generation.exe promo. Like, it's the same stuff every time. It's like, oh well, let's do something that's audacious and like blurs the lines. It's like, who the hell ever wants to see MJF versus Jeff Jarrett? Like, nothing they can do is really like can put people into, oh yeah, that's going to be a feud of all time. We're going to be talking about that for years. They probably know that, so they're just going for the lowest hanging fruit that I can see, and it's not resonated with the audience the way they thought it would. So I think it's
really badly. I don't think I've had a stink like this, certainly from my time doing it, for ever. So like, we've been on the channel for a year and a bit now. I don't think I and Lee have been that mad, apart from when Saudi Arabia got the Rumble. They did go quite mad at that point. But other than that, I don't think we've had anything that has... And towards the end of last year, but obviously that all links in with Owen Hart and stuff. So,
it's just it's so out of pocket, isn't it? Like, all it does is detract from both superstars. It literally, well, I called them superstars. Great, Vince is in my ear. But like, honestly, like, how does this help either wrestler? How does this help build that match? It doesn't. It only diminishes both of them, and it's heartbreaking to see, because you've got Jeff Jarrett, who's like going on the final run, and he's done so much for the business. So this should be something celebrated. And you've got MJF, who's like one of the biggest rising stars in the history of the sport, with like gallons and gallons of talent, and it's just diminishing both of those talents, even though they're at complete opposite ends of the spectrum. They're both being diminished by this program. It's kind of heartbreaking to see.
I think I've been trying to make sense of it, obviously, as I try to do most things. I think they have reached a point where they don't know where to put MJF, so they've got it horrendously wrong and put him in this. I don't know what it is. It's not even a story. It's just...
I want him out of AEW. I want him somewhere else. Just give me a breather of what they're currently doing. But they clearly don't have any plans for him.
It's just like it's a badly timed like rap battle almost. Like, it's not even a story as such, because there isn't one. But yeah, to be honest, I'm getting kind of bored of writing down stuff about it. So I think I'm getting bored of it now. I think I've had enough of ranting about it.
I think that says a lot about the angle as a whole. Like, MJF was one of the staples that I would always check out the promos, check out the matches. I was invested. I wanted to see where that was going. And now I tune into AEW and I see MJF and I grow. How have they done that? Yeah, it speaks volumes about that.
So one of the best people on the mic in all of wrestling, like in world wrestling. So
I'd say the greatest promo in the modern day. I'll give them that.
Yeah, it's worrying because at the same time, if AEW lose him, that's going to be one of their biggest losses ever. Because if you read anything about him behind the scenes, he couldn't be any different to his character, and he spends ages working with the younger, less experienced talent. He's
a real student of the game, and he's really about it. Like, insane.
So
I would have had him. I would have, like, if you got no plans for him, let him go. Let him go establish himself somewhere else. Like, stop collecting your action figures, Tony Khan. Like, if MJF showed up in that Royal Rumble, won the thing, called out Cody Rhodes and said, you had to flee to a whole other company because you're not allowed to challenge for that previous belt because of me, you got a massive main event right there that everyone will be talking about for eons.
Yeah.
But no, we've got MJF versus Jeff Jarrett with the lowest of jabs and just some of the most crass stuff I've seen on TV in a while.
That's the whole of the media talking about WrestleMania in one match. Pretty much. But again, it's one of those ones that we'll have to settle on a 2K GM mode. So Swerve and Ricochet was the last thing. Again, they've done lots of weeks where they've made this into a huge thing, which is great. But when the match lasted for not long over 10 minutes, there's not an awful lot that you can do in it. It was still okay. Ricochet interrupts him with a chair as per usual in these sort of things. I'll put an okay match, but a bit short. Hopefully we'll see it again, maybe with a stipulation. Swerve did smash Ricochet onto like the crowd barrier. So like I don't know how else to say it. So basically the division between the crowd and the ringside is normally like now, obviously before it would have been quite spongy, but now it's an advertising board with loads of promos on it. So it's going to be fairly tough. So that was quite cool because you don't see that very often. Quite risky because he could have literally flung him into the crowd at a speed that would have, I don't know, caused serious harm to someone because they're really close.
Yeah.
But luckily it came off. It looked really cool. And then I've got Ricochet wins. That's all I've got. I'm going to take back what I said, actually, after reading all this. I missed the Hurt Syndicate match. Promo that they're going to fight Gun Club. But I'm already done with that reign already.
Really? Yeah.
Because they're just not, again, booking it right. Like they've got three of the most talented people, again, in the wrestling business probably ever. And they put them together as a tag team and making them look horrendous. I don't know how they do it.
I don't know why I'm seeing Bobby Lashley with a tag team championship right now. He should be the front man of everything that the Death Riders are doing is what the Hurt Syndicate should be doing, in my personal opinion. And that would it would make sense. There'd be a story to it. I'm a massive fan of all of the talent involved. The Guns are like some of my favorite up and coming tag team of all time, and Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, absolute legends, goats. But the story is just who wants to see it? It's a damn shame. There's so much talent, but there's nothing. My biggest problem with AEW is there's just no stories that actually are cohesive enough that work these matches in a way. Like it shouldn't be going down like that. I mean, literally, Time Traveler moves chair. We got Bullet Club Gold versus the Hurt Syndicate. you got like the new DX versus this absolute like ruthless faction that are just stomping people out.
There may be a saving grace, as we will come on later. There may be a saving grace, but that's only WWE's stupidness that's a potential possibility. But we'll get to that. Oh yeah, we will get to that rather soon because I don't know whether to start at the start of SmackDown or the end and give my review. I think I'll probably just start at the end. So, if you had watched the WWE YouTube catch-up that they do, which is just the highlights of the night, you got exactly all you needed to see in that 5 to 10 minutes of a 3-hour show. Don't think I need to say much more than that to... I don't know. It's dangerously close to Netflix going, do you know what? Nobody is watching this. Just stick it on YouTube. And that shouldn't be happening, but it's getting that way.
You know it's bad when, like, let me set the scene. I'm chilling. I'm in the studio. I'll put out my laptop. I'm like, all right, I've got some wrestling to catch up on. Let me hop onto YouTube. Let me see the SmackDown highlights. The SmackDown highlights are a nice little compiled, digestible way of watching SmackDown. And I'm skipping through highlights. What are they doing? Yeah.
So the only thing I think was worth mentioning was 2 people are in the chamber now. One of them is Drew and one of them is Belair. Drew beat LA Knight and Jimmy Uso, and then Belair beat Piper Niven, which is, I think, again, that speaks for itself because even if you didn't watch wrestling and you put the 2 people in front of the screen and said who's going to win this, to go on to a massive pay-per-view for WWE. Again, I'm trying to do that without disrespecting one of the wrestlers, but you know what's going to happen. Like, it doesn't take someone that even watches SmackDown to work that one out. So the only other thing, we had Alexa Bliss sign in to obviously SmackDown. She won in a match against Candice LeRae. Again, I think they would have done better to say, if you win that, you're in the chamber as well, because that would have got a huge pop.
Agreed.
Jey Uso started the show, calls out Cody. Cody comes in and hugs him. So it's quite clear and obvious that they're not going to wrestle. They were then interrupted by the Bloodline, and there was a tag team match set up between them 2 for the end of the night. So at the start of the night, you've already announced your main event that nobody is going to want to watch anyway. So you're setting yourself up to fail before you even started. Charlotte calls out Tiffany Stratton. I'm really bored of seeing her already. She's only been back a week. To go across every single show and be on it. Like, I sat in the gym today after our conversation and I thought, do you know what? In an ulterior universe, if her dad wasn't Ric Flair, would she even be back now? And it's no. Like,
we go back to what Stussy was saying before, and it's not bloodline, but it's nepotism. It is just nepotism as far as I'm personally concerned. I've been watching Charlotte since she got onto the circuit. It's been how many years now? Not once have I invested in that character. Not once have I invested in the ring work. I mean, I know I'm personally overly passionate when it comes to this stuff, but to do that,
wouldn't it have been better just to have her as to finish off her career as like a babyface? Like, it wouldn't have just been so much better, I think, to say, look, like, I've been a bit of a bitch all these years, but I do really appreciate the journey that I've had in the wrestling business and what I've been able to be a part of. That would have been, I don't think people would have booed her at all if she'd have come out like that. Yeah. They'd have gone, oh, this is great. This is, again, something like New Day. This is something that we didn't expect to happen.
I mean, like, again, with the affiliation, like, people were losing their minds for Ric Flair, heel or face. He could play both. Give her the same opportunity. Like, do something different with her character. It's the same character we've seen since day one. You see the same stuff. It's just gonna be like, all right, whatever. Let's see something new. I hope Stratton doesn't get dragged down by the stench of that in any way. I mean, any of the female talent. I just feel like it's just a bit. She's a bit of a leech in a sense, you know. She rolls up, says, "I'm all this and that," and then I don't really see anything that backs it up, you know.
Yeah, it's an odd one. I don't really know what happens, but yeah, it can't be good just getting booed all the time. Even if you are who you are, like, it just can't be fun. So we have got to we have a comment though. Oh no, we missed two. So I missed that, which would be great, but they'll never do it just because they don't have that. I don't know. They do have that mind, but they just don't want to do anything clearly. My argument is that Flair is so much better as a heel. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, for sure.
It's been her character for ages, but I'm just meaning something different because she's not. Well, I hope not. She's not going to be around for another like 10 years. Maybe that's going to happen, but I hope not. To finish it off, surely it would have been like, I don't know, a bit like John Cena. Do you know what I mean? Last year, it would have been that same sort of thing.
When someone's that decorated, you expect them to come back and, you know, get some kind of reverence and be able to pass on some of that to the next up and comers, the new generation, all about, instead of walking out there and shitting all over the new talent and the people who've been holding the company down while she's been off. Sorry to interject, but continue.
Yeah, no, it's that thing though, isn't it? Obviously, what do we know? We only sit down for so many hours in the week and watch all of this stuff. Like, what do we know? But yeah. So yeah. Any other news? There is a little bit, some good, some bad, some everything in between. So probably starting off, obviously we saw Evolve, a little promo coming on during Royal Rumble. So interestingly, apparently it's on every Wednesday. So for a while I was like, well, it's not the same day as NXT. So obviously that makes sense. But then I was like, oh, it's a Wednesday. Took me it should have been so quick to do it, but I was just randomly there and I was like, oh, okay. So they want to do WCW and they want to kill AEW altogether. So let's put it on a Wednesday to rival their main show. And if we manage to somehow make it good, we've then made a B show that's going to go on Tubi for free, better than your main show. That's obviously what they're thinking. It's not going to happen, but they're like, well, give it a go. Like, why not?
If it takes any viewers away, then they'd probably view it as a win.
Yeah.
I think it's a long game deal.
So it's premieres in March. So AEW have got a little bit of time between now and then to make it main event type stuff. And this is where I'm a little bit confused because the write-up for it was rising WWE prospects as they look to move up into NXT and WWE. But that is also what they're doing the LFG as. So I was a little bit confused. Kind of feels like, let's do the same thing as NXT UK, get everybody excited for a little bit, and then when that heat dies off, we'll just kill it. Feels a little bit like that. Again, I hope I'm wrong, but the cynical side of me says that's what they're trying to do, because at the minute, all the talk is them. So, right, what can we do to make sure we have a show every day of the week, which is what they'll have now in March, because they'll have across multiple destinations as well. So they'll have Raw on a Monday, NXT on a Tuesday, Evolve and Speed on a Wednesday on different platforms, one being Tubi, one being X. Thursday, NXT Level Up's finished, so they might have a day off on Thursday, and then they've got Friday, which is SmackDown, Saturday, Sunday, which is any promos, any PLEs or pay-per-views that they have. So realistically, you've got 2 days in a week where there isn't something affiliated to WWE, which is mad. Thank God I say to myself, I'm only watching a few of them, because I couldn't physically cope. I think I would be screaming out of my window if I had to do all that.
I agree. As someone who's following WWE, AEW, TNA, New Japan, I'm following as much as I can. It does get to a point where it's like, how much of my week is just wrestling?
I wake up, go to work, and think, it's Monday today, so I'll have to watch Raw, because then if I don't, I'll be behind.
Lagging behind. Exactly.
On Sunday, I'll be back to back with TNA and NXT, and Tuesday rolls around. I'm thinking, well, NXT is now on Netflix, so I've got good access to it without any buffering, and it's in good quality. So it does make you want to watch it even more than you did before, which is weird. So yeah, I can't fit any more in, is basically what I'm saying. So I'm praying to the powers that be that this is the limit, but it won't be. So I'll probably do the bad news next, and then end on two good things. So as we obviously happens every sort of, I don't know, it's every sort of couple of months now for me, but it's probably more. WWE just randomly release people who we thought would maybe be on, like some of them obviously make sense because they're not thinking this way. They're thinking, well, we don't have to pay them anymore. But some of them make sense in terms of they're not getting on anything, so it may as well be that they go somewhere else. But some of them, I don't know. I don't have any view on it other than just sat like you're doing now, just shaking your head.
It's a weird one.
So I'll end with the good news, I think. But that's good news for them because of what may become of them because of it. But some of them. Yeah, some of them. I think all of them will get like good somewhere else. That's like independence where they can go anywhere they like. Or
should we go over the individual releases just to inform people?
So I have got a list. I've just highlighted a couple that I want to speak about a little bit more because that might be good for them. The ones that really make me shake my head are all of them, to be fair. Sonya Deville, really.
That's the major one for me. That came completely out of left field. Literally involved with the Pure Fusion Collective or whatever they've been doing with all of that, and obviously everything that's been going on behind the scenes and everything with Deville lately. I mean, literally, when we were watching the Royal Rumble, what happened? First time I ever heard about the Pure Fusion Collective, and I was like, "Hey, I'm invested." Boom, she's gone.
I do think they've done that now. Again, with one that came out. So these were the first name of lists. And then there was one that came like a day after as well, which added a few more. And the other one that I went, well, that makes no sense, is Isla Dawn, because she was in loads of tag team matches across NXT, across SmackDown, and across
very
Raw.
well accomplished. Yeah.
As a tag team, they were in so much, so that just breaks that up. So again, that was another one that, all of them shook my head out, but those are the two that stood out, I think, for me. Blair Davenport was the other one, but they've lost someone that they could have done something with.
They've had her around for a long time as well, and they haven't really done anything there. So I think
perhaps. So he just didn't really have much of a creative direction for her, unfortunately, which is a damn shame because she's an astounding talent, like with a lot of upward momentum and trajectory.
As soon as AEW can announce that they have got them when their kind of madness of the press finishes, that's one of them that'll go straight there, along with most of them, I think. Cedric Alexander was another one. Again, probably like the last one. For him, it's probably an okay thing because he will probably get much more. Because I guess the thing is, if you're in WWE, and even if it's just for a match, you've always got that. He's been in WWE. So you're always going to get that big pop, even if you're on independence, because they can put underneath was once part of WWE, whatever else.
Maybe so it's always a expansion or something.
Yeah. And for him, they're not really using him. So that made sense. Giovanni Vinci. That's just a shit show. I think you know about that. The OC was, I don't know, again, not being used.
Good brothers, though.
A little bit surprised.
I don't think many people are surprised. And this is being a constant in their careers across every single company. It seems like every year they're getting released from a different company and they're just hopping and hopping and hopping. As someone who's invested in them since their inception as a tag team, I've got to say it's very disappointing in a sense, but at the same time, I can understand it because they haven't really moved any needles in any of these companies, as far as I'm concerned personally. But yeah, they weren't doing anything. They weren't really getting booked, so I can kind of see it. But unfortunately, you know, I mean, at the very least, they've been boys for a long time, so yeah, we'll see what's up.
Yeah.
We got some interesting comments here as well. Like, yeah.
I was going to come to that. I've got a last name, which, I think thinking about it as well, the OC could kind of have the same sort of thing. So AOP and Elring are the other one. But we had kind of formulation in the group chat that would be viable then. Opponents for Hurt Syndicate, and you'd have somebody that was on the same level in terms of massive brutes and just wreck people. Like, so that makes sense. So that was why I said that's probably the only thing that could potentially save them. Same with the OC though as well, a little bit. Like, they're also quite imposing, quite tall, quite powerful. So running with all three of them for a promo could create some heat, because obviously anybody that jumps over does in some sense, because AEW
is meant to be, you know, the tag team promotion anyway, so we're probably likely to see both of those teams do something.
WWE would be Saturday night's main event on a Wednesday. Yeah,
that got me good, Stussy. That is exactly the mentality that they'd run.
Little detail on the releases, you just get literal names. You don't get whether they've been told one day. Like, you don't get if it's a WWE WCW situation where they turn up and like have a job, or whether it's a phone call. Regrettably, I think in WWE's terms, it's probably still they've learned nothing, and it's WCW.
It is still the same. I was reading on Reddit the other day. Because the releases span further than the actual contracted wrestling talent. A bunch of people in the production teams and social media posters, and so one of the social media posters put on, and they ended up basically like venting their entire process, how they landed their dream job to be able to work on the production team for WWE, and then they just got their notice out of nowhere and they were gone. And it's heartbreaking because it's not just the people we see on the screen, it's the people behind the screen as well who help present us this product that we all know and love. It's sad, but you know they do it for all of this monetary stuff.
Yeah, I think that's what me and Lee said when we spoke about, because I watched the Rise and not the Rise and Fall. It was a WCW show that was on like American channel recently, and we did a review of it after, and that was the bit that stood out to both of us. The wrestlers are the people that can move on to different things, but the production team and the whatever else, they have to then cut back some of their like families, whatever they're doing to survive until they can get something else. Like, it doesn't really have the same, like we spoke about when somebody wrestles for WWE once, they still can say that. You can't really say that because you'll be in a team of 65 other social media posters that post all these things every single day and 6 or 7 times a day. So
it's already such a highly competitive industry as is, and you throw that into the mix. It's crazy.
It's like, it's got like getting like a game developer getting into one of these massive corporations and then realizing that just to pass a map through on the game, they have to go through 7 different teams just to get to the person that.
Well, with someone with experience in game design, that's exactly how it is. Yeah.
And then they go, no. And then you leave because it's not how you thought it would be. So it's kind of like that same thing, isn't it? It's that, that's the people it really affects, not the people that we spoke about.
Shout out to everyone who got released, though. I hope they all have, best of luck in their future endeavors and they flourish.
I think the only thing I think of is they're more free, aren't they? They can do what they want.
Yeah.
If they want to fly to America one week to do a random indie show and then the next week have 2 weeks off with their family, they can do that. When they're working with WWE, they've got neither of those things.
Exactly. It is kind of liberating in a sort of sense, but it's very melancholic at the same time, especially for the people who genuinely were passionate, because it is a sacrifice to work for a company like the WWE. You have to give so much up to be able to keep up with that. So to see that the sacrifice is just returned with a text message or a phone call, like, you're gone. It's just a bit disheartening as a whole. But I definitely agree with you, though, in terms of it definitely allows for the expansion of freedom in a sense.
Davenport is still really young. She'll be fine. I said that
for sure.
They'll be on the phone to her as soon as they saw that social media post, like they do, saying, "Do you want a way out?" Oh, here we are. Surprised to see Blair go. She's still younger than most of the other women and has a unique look. AEW, that's what they're made for. They're made for this different look.
It'll be interesting to see Blair go back to AEW because she had a little stint there, didn't she? Early on to be Priestley. So
I think so.
I wonder what she's going to do. I mean, it's obviously not locked in where she's going to go or what she's going to do, but she's had quite an accomplished career already. So that's one of the ones that everyone's going to be keeping an eye out for, I'm sure.
Gallows is injured as well. This doesn't give him an excuse though.
No.
Because they stick by people for years when they've got injuries, so that gives them zero excuse at all. But I suppose it makes some sense to it all.
I think Luke Gallows has probably got to be on the short list of the most WWE releases in the history of releases, right? How many has he accumulated over the years? It's crazy. Absolutely
Even
crazy.
Back when he was in like developmental, I'm sure he was in like series and then didn't win that series and then eventually came back up and
Straight Edge Society, he was gone, and then a few stints, the Good Brothers. It's insane.
Oh yeah, that's another conversation completely. That was just a shit show from start to finish, but it made for some fun DVD extras that I've now got on the rise and fall of WCW. Last bit of 2 other news that are positive. Elijah from you'll remember him from playing with his guitar, a little bit like Rock Concert again, but his own flips. He's joined AEW. And then we had a prediction for the Elimination Chamber. I think we was on Discord at the time, and it popped up on my phone, and it was Seth Rollins, CM Punk. I've put my brain's gone to mush, and I've put
John Cena and McIntyre, right?
Yeah, so Seth Rollins, John Cena, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre, and then Logan Paul was the 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6. that was in that prediction. That's sort of coming true because obviously Cena's there, Punk's there,
and McIntyre's there as well.
Logan Paul's in a qualifying match, I think, on Monday for it.
It's looking like it can shape up.
Works, but obviously he's injured, so it might not work. Depending on obviously his return time. Seth makes sense. They'll just put it into a random segment in Raw, I'm sure. So then you've got your 6.
And talk about a stacked 6. Like we're definitely
a prediction never makes it into any other news because it is made up. But I had to put that in there because I remember putting it in the group chat and then scrolling back to find it today just to make sure I had the right ones. Because I've had a lot to say about Elimination Chambers in the past, in that they used to be one-off events and they were something to be excited for, to now having a pay-per-view and them all kind of molded into one. So hopefully they can't get that wrong. I say that with hope. They surely can't get that wrong with that amount of stacked people in the same line.
It's the first time in years that I've even been excited for a chamber match based on some of the talent involved. There's a stories that could be told inside the chamber, and genuinely, I got no idea who's going to win it, and that's everything I want in an elimination. I can throw predictions out left and right and try and theory craft some stuff, but you want a star-studded chamber with believable contenders, and I think hopefully as well. Touch wood. Thankfully, my desk is made of wood. This chamber could be like a monumental one. It could be good. I hope it continues, and I hope we get this star-studded chamber that we've hopefully manifested into existence.
Yeah, for sure. It shows the dedication to the grind. I remembered where me and Jordan watched the Elimination Chamber last year because it was out of Australia. So we were in Belgium for Rampage, and we had been out the night previous and the night before, because it would have been a Sunday or a Saturday. Either or, we were out till 6 a.m. each night. But because it was Australian time, we realised that we could watch it live at a sensible time for us. Obviously, it wasn't such a sensible idea because I remember setting a couple of alarms. We missed a couple, and then I eventually plucked up the courage to get out of bed and try and wake Jordan up at the same time without waking up 5 other people that was in the room, because they would have probably took my head off. To then go on to this TV where we had to fight just to get my the completely legal HDMI stick into the back of the TV to then connect to various things just to get onto the app to try and find it. And then after that, realised that we could have signed into Jordan's network anyway.
Oh, that's perfect.
So eventually,
the stuff we do for wrestling is insane, isn't it?
We did get there. We had lifeless bodies around us that were just sleeping. And as they woke up, they were greeted with me and Jordan shouting. And yeah, they said, "What on earth are you watching this shit for?" was something along the lines of that, which obviously to me and Jordan is just something.
Another day in the office, isn't it?
Yeah. Duration of our lives. So it really, but for them, it didn't really matter because they went, well, complete waste of my time even opening the eyes. So they went back to bed. But yeah, that shows, unfortunately, how addicted we still are to this thing that we should have grown out of when we were 12.
Well, that's what everyone tells us, it should be. And it's great to see that we're still here. We're still kicking. We're still passionate. Doesn't matter what any of them say, because we got passion for this stuff. And, it always baffles me, especially. I'm sorry to go a little bit off topic here, but when it comes to the music scene, how do they not see the crossover?
presentation. And like for me, at least as a kid, and I'm sure it's the same for many of you, the first thing you see is the outfits, the presentation, the entrance, the music that goes with it, the whole like theater aspect and the shebang of it is like, wow, I'm invested in this as an art form, not as, oh, you guys know that's fake, right? Like, I don't get that. There's so much more crossover with music and wrestling than most people give credit for. Even if we're talking like promos and hyping people up and drawing in massive crowds and stuff.
Nights now where they just play themes and stuff like. I love that. I love that. Oh, it's all fake though. And then I love the comment that I always give back when they say, "Oh, so you'd be happy if someone the size of 20 times the size of you slams you onto something that is going to work with you?" And they go, "Oh, yeah, definitely." And I'm thinking, nah, it's
like you're wearing your Star Wars t-shirt. I'm not going to be like, yo, you know, like those lightsabers are rotoscoped. They're not actually lightsabers. Like, I don't get that. But that's the battle that us wrestling fans fight every day. At least we're in it together, you know?
Yeah. I think that's just, it's good fun. I actually like that people say that to me because I'm thinking, do you know what? This is an opportunity. I'd like to see Priestley versus Nix and Newell in the Indies at some point.
That could be interesting.
I'm sure some good names would prefer to work indies on their own terms over wrestling, WWE dark matches, and good catering. We spoke about that a little bit for sure. Punk versus Cody. I know earlier on you hoped that CM Punk would win. That was my hope after his promo that he cut. But obviously,
it's the biggest bout that they've got, isn't it? Like that's the one that's going to draw so much mainstream media attention. It's going to get everyone talking. It could really kickstart something. Those promo battles could be fierce. I'm sat here as someone who's not a fan of either of the talents, but even I recognize that is the biggest bout that could possibly happen. So I'm with you on that.
And then for me, the appeal of wrestling is that it's like a comic book. It never ends and has so much lore and history to it. Yeah, I think I spoke about what's happening with influencer boxing at the minute. Not the big influencer boxing, but like on the Misfits cards and stuff. I watch those because I know for a fact 92% of them won't be able to box. But because it's like wrestling and because it's everyone just jumping over the ring barrier to go into the ring, to call somebody out, to somebody that can't box, that just throws his hands around and gets flattened. Like some people take the mick, but actually, do you know what? That's somebody said it last time I was watching a pay-per-view, and there was two guys from the young YouTubers, the really young YouTubers that used to have like rap battles against each other. BG Media? No?
Oh yeah, BG Media sounds like.
So they had Little T was one of them.
I fucking remember Little T.
And the other one was completely looks like an alien.
What is it? The Tic Tac Don?
Yeah, potentially. I can't remember
what's his name. But that was a whole
shit because he was like, I'm gonna knock him out, and he's probably the worst boxer I've ever seen in my life. Like, I'm gonna knock him out. Afghan Dan,
that's it. Yeah. Literally. Oh my god. What? Like, I remember back when that YouTube beef. That's exactly what we're talking about here, isn't it? Like, that's an interwoven long-term storyline right there.
10 years of like hatred, and there was like serious hatred. Like, if one of them was like on a train platform with a train coming, they wouldn't pull each other off that train platform because they actually hate each other that much for whatever reason. But it was one of the worst things and funniest things I've ever seen because Little T hadn't really said anything apart from, "Oh, I'm going to knock him out," and that was it. Whereas the other one was going on interviews with different people and saying, "Oh, I'm the best boxer you'll ever see." Like, yes, it's orchestrated because they knew for a fact that he couldn't punch a door, like, because his arms were just swinging, and they were just. Everybody was like, "Oh, this is so stupid," but to me, that was just so funny. You guys are so right about the production of wrestling, the music, lights, and drama. Still love it at 21 years plus. I thought you was a little bit younger, to be honest. Like
that's the thing. It encapsulates such a feeling, and it's like such a fusion of videography, audio, and like so many things into one thing. The amount of effort that goes into these shows, as an art form, you gotta appreciate it. If you like, even if you like isolate specific elements that you resonate with yourself, so much goes into it all. Like that energy comes from somewhere. It's got to go somewhere. So yeah, like definitely. I think that's why when you get the wrestling fans like us who don't lapse entirely, and like the ones who don't really grow out of it, it's more of like an appreciation to the culmination of everything that goes into it. Yeah.
This is Call of the Year because, as all of you know, 2011 was the year I fully got back into it, and one of the greatest matches will ever happen in
the Money in the Bank
forever of wrestling, the Money in the Bank match. It would be cool if the final two are Punk and Cena, a callback to the 2011 Chamber match, but this time Punk wins. Didn't think of it that way, but now I'm just excited just to see if that happens.
That would be really cool. I do like that.
So yeah, I do think it's going to be more predictable than that. I do think Cena will go ahead and win it to have his WrestleMania moment. I hope they don't, because I think they've got a match ready-made in him and Logan Paul to be I'm the history and you're the new person, and that creates a massive story for Mania, as they like to do.
Interesting. I quite like that. I was personally going in a completely different direction with Cena. I mean, it's never going to happen because unfortunately like how they've currently booked it. But I was thinking, throw Cena and Gunther, give Gunther a little bit more credibility, and you got that old school kind of. I don't know, it kind of resonates with me on like an old school 80s golden era level. Like you got this foreign menace champion, and you got the American hero coming back in his last run. I feel like that's something that could resonate deeply with a lot of people. But the Logan Paul stuff, I could definitely see that coming to fruition. That is very interesting.
But if they do that timeline that you've just said, you know what's going to happen at the same time, right?
Well, I mean, enlighten me. What do you think is going to happen?
Hulk Hogan will come out from underneath the ring and announce the match is happening, and then, It sounds like a good idea, but it wouldn't be, because they're going to have to get him in Mania somehow. I don't quite know how currently, because
I want to see Cena win. I want whatever bout he's in. I want to see him get a win at Mania, because how many? Like, sure, I get it. It's his final run. He can put someone over, whatever the case may be. But for the past few years, when he's been doing these little impromptu matches and whatnot, he has been putting people over and all of that. But it hasn't really done much, right? Like, if you think back to the Austin Theory thing, right? Like, it wasn't a clean win from Theory, so that definitely didn't help things. But like, I think it'd be nice to see him get a nice little, like, you get that photo of Cena just at the top in a WrestleMania during his final run, and it really hammers in that never give up, hustle, loyalty, respect narrative that they've been building over his entire career.
I think it could go one of two ways. I don't think I want to see that Cena and Punk again, just because I don't want them to ruin one of the best rivalries that you'll ever have.
I could agree with that, yeah.
So I want them to think outside the box, which they don't do very often, but they can do, and give us something that will mean something, but something that we didn't expect. That's quite a lot to ask for currently, but
it's sad. I really wish that they kept the US belt on LA Knight. I mean, they could have done something different with Nakamura in his current, presentation.
I think they could have had Cena, LA Knight, and given the rub there, because LA Knight has gotten to. I mean, obviously, I think his momentum is tragically declining. I think they missed pulling the trigger with him last year properly. But
then
I think that.
Then you've even got a 4, haven't you? You've even got then a fatal 4-way between. Put them all in there: Cena, Logan, Nakamura, LA Knight. And you've got a mix of all these different styles that is gonna then create a match that is going to excite everyone at Mania for a title that maybe they're not going to be excited about.
Honestly, that's genius. I'm invested. That sounds like the best course of action. And with the amount of history that John Cena's got with the United States Championship, it makes sense to me. Like he doesn't have to have his main event position. He doesn't even have to win it. Like it could just be a way of elevating all of that young talent and having a really good match. I think that Fatal 4-Way idea is absolutely genius. I would be fully invested in that.
I think I might be getting, because I did try GM mode again on this year's, but I don't know. I'm clearly not doing something right because I'm not winning. But maybe I think being on this channel has increased my knowledge a lot this year. So maybe next year I'll. I don't know. We'll see. It might not even get it yet. Depends how much CD keys I have it for.
I don't even play GM mode anymore for like the competition aspect. Like we literally just play it for, oh yeah, this is how we would book wrestling as just fun.
Yeah, I think that's great because you have somebody to play it with. But we're
gonna make it happen. We're gonna make it happen. Don't worry.
Somehow, but now there's a possibility of it. Because I think that's probably their biggest announcement this year, which is a little bit shady. But I just wonder how different it's going to be, because 2K24 was probably one of the best games they've ever made in the current era of things.
In the current, like, not since like 19, I think.
Yeah. So then, unfortunately, when you set the bar that high, you then become like 2K or NFL, because you can't year on year you can't do much different because you've got this product that elevates itself among everything else. So then you have to make minor changes and hope that the people that are invested still buy it because of that.
It's tough. I mean, I can't really talk too much on this, but I do have some insider knowledge. Some of my friends are actually working with 2K games. They're part of the studio, and from what they've told me, they are extremely passionate and they're proper wrestling fans, but there's only so much they're allowed to do under the contracts and the negotiations, stuff like that. They are, a lot of the time, their wings are clipped in terms of how much they can add and when they get the deadlines in terms of, you know, who's on the roster and stuff like that. It's all over the place. Anyone who knows anything about the back end of that, it's like the amount of changes and how overworked they are sometimes is really tragic in a sense. A lot of people see the games as rehash, but a lot of that is the nature of the time periods and how the structure is set up and how information is disseminated from the WWE themselves. So it's one of those things.
Like the season pass, it's like the season pass, for example, that's got to be like not out to the public by the time it comes out, but they've got to have what packs they have for the rest of the year. So that goes into, right, if you've got Bloodline, I don't know, one Bloodline member in a DLC pack means he can't go on at the start. So that means we'll have to get everybody else on and just not him. And yeah, it's do you understand the Netflix? Oh my god! I mean, I'm not the rest of that. Like,
I mean, just that's gonna be
a custom arena maybe, but if it comes in like the actual game, Penta is probably DLC. Yeah, they'll have a whole pack on Lucha Libre, unfortunately. Probably. Like they're doing in the products at the minute, but I'm glossing over that. I don't think it's happening. It is, but I'm going to pretend it's not. So yeah, I think that's it. I think that's everything. yeah, pretty much. Is there anything that you would like to shout out? Or anything? Have you Instagram?
Not particularly. I don't need any kind of clout like that. But I'm just going to shout out everyone who tuned in today. We've had really good conversation. We've covered a lot of ground. Yeah, shout out everyone in the music scene as well. Next week is going to be absolutely livid if you're into electronic dance music. So I hope, it's going to be fun. Fun times ahead. Good wrestling, good times. And
next week?
Next week is Mode Step and the Reaper AC.
After is the big one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
I know you said you didn't want it, but it's on the screen anyway. If you want to find out more about graphic design elements, more about the events that we all go to, that's what you'll find there, basically.
Slide into my DMs, anyone, even if you just want to have a talk or whatever about anything. I've always got time, always happy. Also, better go show some support to the Instagram for Wrestle Dogs and make sure that we can keep this stuff upward. Like, this community is great, and let's keep it growing.
That's there. Lots of videos that we can't put on YouTube on there, and stuff like that. That's my Instagram in case anybody wants it. And that's it. I've now gone for, again, way more than I expected. An hour and a half is what I put myself down for.
My apologies. We went on a few tangents.
It's all good. It is what it is. But yeah, I don't know when you'll see us next. Sunday or Monday, maybe. We'll see. I'm
probably going to be taking a little bit of a break from the podcast for a little bit in terms of I've got a lot of uni work and stuff like that. So I'll be tuning in whenever I can, and I'll probably be in the comment section with everyone else. But yeah, as always, it's always a pleasure to be here.
It was great to have everyone's engagement in the chat. I think that's probably the most comments we've had on one. So it was really cool because it opened up, I don't know, different conversations that I didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, keep them coming, because every single wrestling fan has got their own headcanon and their own interpretation, and it's great when we get to talk all of this out and just come up with new ideas and perspectives on wrestling. Like, for example, like that Fatal 4-Way match you just booked just now. Like, I doubt it's going to happen, but if it does, that's something I'm heavily invested in. Yeah. It's been a really good dialogue.
Going to last thing. I'm going to go and look, because I think the Royal Rumble stream will now be either second or third most popular live. Hang on. Yeah, so it's now got. That's a shame. It's now gone above my favourite, which was the interview with Andrew from Cultaholic. It eclipses that by a few, only by 2 more videos, which is the first ever watch along / video we ever did on this channel, which is really cool that it's one of the most. And then when there was Kyle Devon and a couple of others ranking wrestlers' theme music, putting it into like a tier list. So yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. But yeah, that's all I can do. See you all next week.
Take it easy, guys.